Hi first graders! Today we're going to talk about how we can use place value to model, read, and write numbers to 120 and how specifically we can model to name groups of 10. Yesterday we practiced doing our quick picture of numbers up to 20. This is a quick picture of the number 17. And today we're going to use this and apply it to bigger numbers. As we do our math work today, think about how you can model and name groups of 10. And pay attention to the patterns you might notice. And think to yourself, I noticed that, and pay attention for a pattern. Here we go. Now, when we are modeling numbers and doing our quick write, yesterday we talked about doing a quick write with a 10 and circles for the ones, a line representing the 10 and circle representing 1. This worked out really well when we're talking about numbers up to 20. But when people really have to count things that are large, and especially in the classroom, what we often do is we'll try to count these Unifix cubes that we have. But right now we're home. We don't have these cubes with us. So when I'm looking at my math work today, I'm going to use pictures to represent. But you could do this work at home if you had cubes like this. Organizing and naming groups of 10 is an excellent way to count larger groups of objects. And as I count, I might think about, how can this be useful with bigger numbers? What patterns can I depend on so that counting bigger numbers is easier? Let's say, for example, I have this number of cubes right here. Now I certainly can count by ones. I know that pattern is great. I can count and continue that pattern. But what happens in the real world is when you're counting large groups like this, as you know from your counting of groups when you were in kindergarten, sometimes things get distracting, you might lose track, and then you're left in a sticky situation because you really don't remember what you left up on. Right? And so when you're using patterns and groups of 10, it helps to count more easily. So here, these cubes are actually organized in a way, in a pattern. So this is a column of 5. So I know, because I know my 5s, I have 5 and 5. I have one group here of 10. I have here 2 groups of 10. Do you see the other 2 5s? So if I have 5, 10, here's one group of 10, 5, 10, another group of 10, 5, 10, another group of 10. That means I have 3 groups of 10s. I have 10, 20, 30. Or I could probably count it by ones too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We know that if I counted by ones, I'd probably get to 3 groups of 10 too. 30. If I counted by 5s, I'd probably get there too. 5, 10, you can count with me. 15, 20, 25, 30. But even in counting by groups of 5, it gets a little confusing because look at this. Then I'm going to have lots of these circles. It's going to become more challenging to count and use this pattern to count with bigger numbers. So groups of 10 are an excellent way to do that. So I counted and I had 3 groups of 10. So we have 30 cubes here, and we had 3 10s. We had no extras. 3 10s and 0 extras. 3 10s is the same as 30. And this is the numeral 30. And I'm going to draw a quick draw of 30, just like we did. There's 3 10s, 30. Let's try again. So I just showed 3 ways to write this. I wrote it one way, 2, actually I did 4 ways. I wrote the numeral and I drew a quick pick. Let's try again. Let's make groups of 10 and write the 10s and 1s. So I know this pattern. I'm going to double check that it's in a column of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that I know it's a column of 5, let's see. Do you see that it's the same across all of the columns? That'll help me find my groups. So I'm going to circle one group of 10, 2 3 and 4. Yes. So 41s is 4 10s. I had 0 extras, right? I circled all of them. 4 10s is the same as equals 40. See the number 40 there? And I'm going to draw my quick pick of 4 10s. Just like yesterday, I drew my quick pick of 17 that had 1 10 and 7 1s. 4 10s has 4 sticks here. So as I'm looking through my work today, I want you to really pay attention to some patterns that you might see. So I just did number 1 was 30, number 2 was 41s. Today in your math work, you're going to see other patterns too in the After I'm done looking at the cubes, I can use this pattern and notice, well, let's see, if I have 51s, 51s, that's a lot of ones. I don't need to draw 50 circles. I can see about a pattern. I can look back to what I did before. And I remember I had 31s and that made 3 10s. So remember I did this 31s. Oops. That 31s made 3 10s and 0 1s. 3 10s is the same thing as 30. Mathematicians can use this reasoning to move on to away from our picture. I can then look at this pattern and say, well, if 31s is 3 10s and 41s is 4 10s, 51s must be 5 10s. So what I can do is I'm going to make 5 10s here. I have no ones. 50 is 5 groups of 10. I can even pretend my fingers. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. 5 10s. I'm counting and I draw a quick pick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 10s equals 50. Then I'm going to look at the next one. If 5 51s equals 5 10s, 61s equals how many 10s? I can count on my fingers. I can draw my quick draw to show 61s, but I'm not going to draw 60 circles. I'm going to show it in 10s. So I can count 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I drew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 10s. That erases so fast. I'm not sure why, but we can be flexible. So 61s is really 6 10s and nothing else. Do you see any patterns here? It kind of looks like the number 60. First graders, when you're looking at these number patterns and finding ways to use noticed patterns with the number 10 and larger numbers, pay attention as you go. And on this page in particular, make sure you look from one number to the next and see where this pattern might go, because we're going to keep on continuing this pattern with even larger numbers. And the last thing I wanted to talk to you about today is a checkpoint. It's a mid-chapter checkpoint, and that means that you're going to do this work on your own. Now, for numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, especially over here, it says use a counting chart. Just pay attention to what it's asking you to count by. So this one's saying count forward, use the number. So it's saying 63, 64. Notice the pattern it's counting by. 108, 109. Go back to that helpful 120 bar chart a few pages earlier in your math workbook. And then over here, look what happens. Numbers 3 and 4 ask you to count by 10s. So that means using the other pattern we used with our 120 board to help extend a pattern. And remember here, we're showing all different ways to make the number. And here it says to draw to show your work. So over here, we're looking for a quick pick. And on the bottom, the last hint I'm going to give is down here. Let's see if I can move it. If I can, I'm not sure. See. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it says choose all of the ways. right? So whenever I see that, that's a big hint that often that means there's more than one correct answer. As we know, there are many ways to show a number. So this last checkpoint is just to see what are all the ways that you know to show this number. Keep up the great math thinking, mathematicians. And remember, the math practices that you use are ones that you can take with you always. Find patterns, use the knowledge that you're learning to learn more about new problems, and lastly, think about numbers in many ways.